Hi there, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm just going to adjust this. Whoops, I think I'm going the wrong way. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I needed to do some mom duty tonight because my husband's out of town. So I am not coming to you live. I'm coming to you pre-recorded. So watch this whenever you can, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with this layout. The layout tonight was inspired by fellow demonstrator Connie Stewart in a video I saw on YouTube from her. We're going to do a fun kind of a gatefold card tonight. Wanted to remind you, Celebration only has about 10 days left. So make sure you snatch up the things that you want out of there with your $50 or $100 order. There's some great things to get for those levels. A lot of amazing designer series paper. But one of the things I'm going to show you tonight, oops, let me move this out of the way, is the set here called Jungle Pals. So the set is free at the $50 level. And then the dies are free at the $100 level. So I'm going to be using both tonight in a little bit, couple times for on camera and stepped up. So you'll see both the set and the dies in action. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We need to have tonight a base that's 4 1/4 by 11. And I just had you put one score line in it tonight at 2 3/4 inches. And then we'll make the other one ourselves, and I'll show you that in just a minute. You need a piece of designer series paper that's light enough to stamp on. That's 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. Mine comes from one of the specialty papers that is called, where did I write it down? Oh, bummer, I forgot to write it down. I will write that into our notes after the video. I can't believe I forgot to write that one down. All right, then we need a neutral piece that's 1 1/2 by 2 1/2. We're going to be using it vertically like that, and you need an image or images to fill that up. We're going to do a piece for the inside, so that one is 4 by 5 1/4. Then you need a piece of cardstock that coordinates. That's 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. Mine tonight is Pretty Peacock. And then you want a ribbon that is up to about 1/2 inch wide. Mine tonight that I'm using is Lost Lagoon. And you need your paper trimmer handy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do, first I'm going to show you, just as a reminder, here are all the dies that you get. Lots of great ones that actually cut out the images of all the animals, and then bonus dies to create leaves and trees and vines, all kinds of great stuff. And then look at those little cuties. They're so fun, and they'll be great for coloring, for those of you who like to color. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our scorer here at 2 3/4. We're just going to give that a little burnish. Now I'm going to have to take the paper off camera to do this on the side of my table, so I'm going to basically show you what I'm going to do using my paper trimmer. So I want to give this a little bit of a bend so that it's going to kind of fold easier for me without cracking the paper. So I'm going to take it over the edge of my table and just kind of go in that area so that it breaks up the fibers a little bit, and that's going to give it just a little bit easier of a bend for me. Let me just do that on my table. Like I said, I have to go off camera so you won't be able to see it. But now, as you can see, there's a little bit of a curve in my paper, and that's going to help us make this other score line. Now, I could have told you to score it 2 3/4 from both ends, but sometimes it doesn't line up exactly because your paper might be off a little bit in cutting or in manufacturing, and then you're not going to have that even fold in there. They're not going to come together in the middle for you. So you see what I did there is with that help of that curve, I brought that piece together in the middle, and then I just used my bone folder to do that. Now, if you're having trouble with that, again, the other solution would be to do 2 3/4 from both sides and then fold them in and do those score lines. Okay, so if you're going to stamp anything for your inside or do any kind of decoration to it, go ahead. And then that piece there is going to go inside, because you'll see now we have that 4, but our normal card size is there on the inside, and then the two come together to meet in the front. Okay, so we're done with that for a little bit. Let's go ahead and do our images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little sloth here from the Jungle Pals and ink him up in Memento, because I'm going to give him a little bit of a color. And I'm going to stamp him down here, and I'll show you why in just a few. I have a little visitor at my door, so you might hear a little meow. Apparently Aiden wants to help out with the video tonight. Okay, I'm going to color him in with some crumb cake. I looked up sloths, and their faces inside there tend to be a little lighter than the rest of them. So then I'm going to take some pecan pie. That's my light one. Okay, good. And I'm going to add just a touch of brown around those areas. And then I'm going to go back to crumb cake, but I'm going to take my dark one. And I'm going to use that to blend those colors in. So he has just a touch of brown, darker brown, in with the lighter crumb cake color. Up that way. And then I want to be careful in here to make sure I don't go too far out of my lines. Okay, so there we have our cute little sloth who's all colored and ready to hang out. And speaking of hanging out, I used my dies to cut a piece of vine for him. So I'm going to decide where, let's see, I want him to not have a leaf in his face. So maybe we will go that way or this way. I think we'll go that way. Okay, so I'm going to put a little glue under that leaf to start. So I can see, whoops, it's a little plugged up. There we go. Come on. There we go. And I'll place him down first so he stays where I want him to. And then I can kind of put some glue under here where that little bit's going to end up. And then again over here where that little bit's going to end up. All right, I'm going to set him aside to dry, and then I will trim off the parts that I don't need before I put him onto the card. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, bring in your paper trimmer. Take that 2 1/4 square piece of designer series paper, and we're going to cut it down to 2 pieces, one that is 1 inch and one that is 1 1/4 inch. Now, if yours is directional, we're going to be using this horizontally like this. So if you have a directional type of designer series paper, make sure you cut your 1 1/4 accordingly so that your pattern stays where it's supposed to, okay? I am going to use mine in that striped position. So basically, if you cut it at a 1 inch or a 1 1/4, either way, you're going to end up with the 2 pieces that you need because that was your 2 1/4 inches, okay? Whoop. All right, you're all done with your paper trimmer. Now, based on the type of phrase, the size of the phrase that you grabbed, you're going to put your phrase into one of these, and you're going to put your ribbon onto the other. So I have kind of a larger sized phrase, my hello, which comes from another Celebration set called Heartfelt Hellos. All right, and then I'm going to use my pecan pie ink because I want this to show up against that color back there. I would have used crumb cake, which is my base, but I want it to be a little bit darker over this peacock color that you see in there. So there's my hello. And then for the other piece, this is where you're going to grab your ribbon, and we're just going to do a simple knot and then add that to your piece up there. My ribbon is very much tied down. There we go. I like to have it come up a little bit, and then I use some Scotch tape just to hold it in place. Otherwise, they unravel all over the place in my drawer. And I have all this ribbon laying around that I have to match back up. Okay, so again, simple knot, and then cut off what you don't need from that end, and then just trim up your loose end to match. Okay, then we're going to attach that with a glue dot, if you have one handy, which I put them on the other side of my table, of course. Again, hold on, please. See, at least with pre-recorded video, I can just pause. And you don't have to wait for me to walk across the studio. All right, got my glue dots. So we are going to go ahead and there it is, add one of those. Again, I like to take my ribbon to my glue dot and then pull off from there. It's a little bit easier, and I don't end up with all the sticky or the glue dot getting all messed up in my fingers and that sort of thing. I do the same thing if I have a loose gem or something that I'm using to attach to something that doesn't come already self-adhesive. That's exactly what I do with that too. Okay, now this should have had a minute to settle. I'm going to trim off the parts of the vine I don't need. Boop. And boop. Okay, now we are going to lay those pieces out. Oh, he decided to come back up again a little bit. All right, let's try that again. Okay. There's a little more. I try not to squish too much. I don't want too much glue hanging out. Okay, so basically now what we're going to do is we're going to assemble those 3 pieces onto this square, or rectangle really, of cardstock. I used Pretty Peacock because it goes with the peacock that's in the base of my DSP there. And then I used this Lost Lagoon ribbon because it actually has a little bit of variation to it in the color. So it kind of blends in with both Lagoon and Peacock. And I think it's really kind of a fun one. And it's really easy to work with. So, okay, so you can decide. I usually do the image to the left. And then you can decide here, the rest of the space will have enough for both of those pieces. And you can decide if you want the ribbon on top or the phrase on top, or if you want, you know, the larger rectangle, basically larger rectangle versus smaller rectangle, whatever you like there. And just for fun, I'm going to flip the direction of these guys today because all the other samples are shown with that image on the left side. All right, so we're going to add this one first. And basically you have enough that you can leave an even border all the way around all of your pieces. Okay, I'm going to put my ribbon at the top, I think. So a little adhesive onto that one. Like so. And then we're going to do our hello right here. Whoops. Oops. I almost had my hello going upside down. That would have been pretty silly. Okay, so there you go. That is the front that's ready to be put on. Now, with a gatefold, you know, you need to be able to open it from both directions. So you don't want to put adhesive all over the back of that because you will essentially be gluing it shut. So you only want adhesive on a little portion of that left half so that it has room to open with the rest of the card. So I usually do about 2 or 3 lines of my stamp and seal and then leave it closed here. You can see where about it's going to center. And there you go. So that is your fun. It's a little bit of a fun fold. This one's called a gate fold, meaning that the 2 gate piece parts meet in the middle, just like on a normal gate or fence. All right, so there is the finished one. And again, if you did anything to the inside, you can add another phrase. You can add some of the stamping, anything like that. And most of my samples, I did do the inside, so you can kind of see some other things I have chosen to do with this. So let's take a look at some other samples. This one uses, excuse me, the Notes of Nature stamp set and dies. This is part of a large collection called Nature's Sweetness. So I have the Nature's Sweetness DSP. I've used some of the gold faux leather trim. And then I chose to make kind of a collage. So what I did here is I used several different stamps from that stamp set, stamped in both Pecan Pie and Pebbled Path. And then I did one die cut of a stamp, and then I did some other die cuts that are in the bonus dies. And I kind of created a little layer of fauna, flora, whatever you want to call that. This piece of DSP from the Nature's Sweetness has this gold flecking in it, and it's got a little bit of a crosshatch pattern to it, but I still was able to stamp on it. The gold ink can be a little bit slippery, but because this is so far apart, I was able to just set that stamp there for a second and then lift it off. And then for the inside, I added a little bit more of that collage stamping. Then from the same collection, I have one made with the Lovely and Sweet. So this one is stepped up a little bit in that I added stamping to my card base. I took one of the images and I stamped it there. I used one piece of designer series paper, but I used both sides of it. So the one I stamped on doesn't have all the gold foiling on it. And then the one I used for my bow has, or my knot has the gold. So it's the same piece of paper, I just used both sides. And then here I used one of the stamps to draw and then color in with my blends. And then again, I have a little bit of that stamping on the inside with a little bit of collage look to it. Okay, that's all in Pebbled Path and Pecan Pie. Then I jumped to Bird's Eye View, and I used DSP from the Flight and Airy, which is in the Celebration catalog. It's one with all bird images, really, really cute. So these leaves, I believe are in the Bird's Eye View, yeah. And then I used, again, a combination of Pecan Pie and Lost Lagoon on here with my Very Vanilla. So he's colored in both those colors. And I added, the DSP from there has a little bit lighter tone to it, so I stamped in the Pecan Pie so you could see it really lovely. And then this Pecan Pie ribbon has some gold flecking in it, so that was really kind of fun. And again, I added stamping to the outside. I also raised up my pieces. I did the same thing on this first one I showed you here. There's a little bit of dimension behind the layers that I put on there. And this one just has the whole piece here. Used just some dimensionals down the left side to have him stand out. And there's one little birdie peeking in on the inside. Alrighty, then I used Quiet Reflection. This is in the mini catalog. It's a really lovely set for sympathy cards and then just really very pretty imagery. There's two stamps, one's a little smaller, one's a little larger, and they're in our distinctive stamp collection. So you see those images and then you see reflection into the water situation. And that's all done just with one coat of ink. The design is all in the stamp itself. It takes a little finesse with this one because of the detail. I have played with a little bit lighter touch, getting my ink on there and or stamping off a little bit first to get some of the ink off and removed. So I added the ribbon is the navy bordered ribbon. So there's a little light in the middle, darker on the edges. And again, the Sorry for Your Loss comes from that Quiet Reflection stamp set. I also added a little bit of embossing to each side. I accidentally put one side in the other direction than the other. So one is actually indented and one is raised up, but that was totally a mistake on my part. I put it into the embossing folder on the wrong side when I flipped it over. So just a little whoopsie that I can share with you to pay attention to which side you're putting your DSP in, or your cardstock in. This particular embossing folder is in Celebration along with a stamp set that's called Softly Sophisticated. And then the inside I have some more of that reflection and then one of the phrases in there. Again, really great for sympathy cards. There's even a phrase in there for losing a pet. All right, and lastly, here's another one with some dimension to it. I popped up this area here. This is using that Softly Sophisticated set and embossing folder all together, and I combined it with the lavender, the DSP from the Lavender Suite. So this is the Perennial Lavender Designer Series paper. It's got a crumb cake base to it. So I added this ribbon here from the annual catalog. It's kind of that fun knotted rope type thing. And then I added one of the little flowers and some phrase over here. And then this is a two-step stamp. So you stamp the spruce in, the leaves in spruce and then the flowers in the Highland Heather. And then you put, they go together to make that cute little floral bundle. And this time I remembered to put the embossing folder in the same direction, so you can see that they match this time. And then I have another set of those flowers on the inside. So like I said, all of these had the images that went to the left, which is why I showed you in my sample I did on camera, which is this one here. Whoop, no it's not. I have to go to the bottom of the pile. There we go. Just a little bit of a different look with that one here. So here's my stepped up version. And you can see I used much more of the dies this time. What I did is I also added the fern embossing folder to those flaps right there. So that has some really lovely texture. And then I added the tree branch that I die cut and some of the fauna of the bottom of the forest. I used a different phrase from that Heartfelt Hello. So it says, Dad, you're the best. I'm going to turn this into either a dad birthday card or a Father's Day card. Same little bit of ribbon there. I know it looks a little bit smaller, but the dad phrase was much smaller. So I put that onto the smaller piece there. All right, so again, he was colored with blends, and then I popped him up so he looks like, whoops, get my thumb out of the way. Looks like he's hanging off the branch there. Okay, so there is a couple ideas that you can do with this layout. So again, you play with the different layers, add stamping or embossing to the panels to make them stand out a little bit better. Change the direction or add layers. You can see here I added some Night of Navy behind and then onto the Misty Moonlight layer so that it, or the boho blue, I'm sorry, so that it has some extra dimension and pops out to you there. All right, and there is that one. They're hard to stay closed sometimes. All right, I will be adding all the information about all of these cards, where to find all the parts I used a little later tonight after I'm done with my mom duty. So thank you for joining me, not live, but on video. And I hope to see you. Actually, we will be taking a week off. There will be no Make It With Me Monday. Next Monday, I will be on vacation, but I will return with you live on March 4th, is it? Whatever that first Monday of March is. We will return live together that night. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me and have a great day. Bye now.